They didn't thank me. Didn't even pick up the phone. Just an email, cold and sterile. Your role has been eliminated due to AI integration. 20 years. Gone with a subject line. I built their lifeline during the 2008 crash. Mentored the junior team, now cashing their bonuses. Innovated when no one else knew where to start. And now, I was outdated. Replaced by a machine I warned them wasn't ready. I packed my office in silence. Shook no hands. Burned no bridges. I walked away with nothing, except the skills they thought they could automate. But the market remembers. It remembers the hands that built the foundation. 6 months later, their number lit up my phone. Begging. By then, it was too late. I had already built something better. The email came on a Wednesday. No meeting, no handshake, no quiet conversation behind closed doors. Just a subject line that read, "Organizational update," and a few cold paragraphs underneath. 20 years distilled into a sterile memo. They thanked me for my past contributions, said they were transitioning toward a more AI-integrated structure, and that my role was no longer aligned with the company's evolving needs. Effective immediately. Benefits through the end of the month. Please return your access card by Friday. I stared at the screen for a long time. My coffee had gone cold. My name is Daniel. I'm 47 years old. For 2 decades, I led product innovation for a company that grew from a rented co-working space to a global name. I built patents, teams, strategies. I stayed late, flew red-eyes, missed birthdays and anniversaries because the launch couldn't wait. Now I was obsolete, replaced by a few lines of code and a consultant's PowerPoint. I didn't reply, didn't forward the email to anyone, just closed the laptop, stood up, and made myself a fresh cup of coffee. The house was quiet. My wife was out running errands, my kids at school. The world kept moving like nothing had changed. I sat down at the kitchen table, watching the steam rise from the mug. I thought about the first day I walked into that company. 27 years old, carrying a cracked leather portfolio and a cheap laptop, ready to prove myself. I remembered the long nights sleeping under my desk during launch weeks, the whiteboards full of messy sketches, the shouting matches that somehow turned into breakthroughs. I thought about the patents with my name on them, tucked away in some legal archive now, forgotten by the same people who used to call me a cornerstone. I wasn't angry, not yet, just hollow, like someone had quietly emptied the building around me and left me sitting there without telling me the party was over. The fridge hummed. A dog barked somewhere down the street. I stirred my coffee slowly and let the realization settle in. 20 years, and it ended in 14 sentences. No meeting, no gold watch, no thank you for your service. It would have been easy to pick up the phone, to call someone, to demand an explanation. But I knew how these things worked. Decisions were made behind doors you didn't even know existed. They'd already moved on. Now it was my turn. I opened a notebook. Not a digital one, a real one, leather-bound, slightly scuffed at the corners. I turned to a clean page, clicked a pen open, and wrote 3 words at the top. Start. Something. New. Then I sat back, drank my coffee, and waited for the first idea to find me. Back then, it wasn't about titles or corner offices. It was about building something that didn't exist yet. I joined when the company was just a name printed on a second-hand sign, wedged between a payday loan store and a nail salon. We had no cafeteria, no HR department, no funding beyond what the founders could beg from friends and family. But we had ideas. And sometimes, that's enough. We slept on air mattresses, ordered bulk ramen from Costco, hacked prototypes together with whatever parts we could scavenge. I worked 12, 14, sometimes 16-hour days, not because anyone was standing over me, but because I wanted to see if we could actually pull it off. I wasn't married yet. No kids. Just a rusted-out Corolla, a shared apartment with a leaky faucet, and a belief that we were building the future. The first big patent wasn't flashy. It didn't make headlines. It was a modular sensor system, something that could be adapted across multiple industries. I wrote most of the early code myself, soldered the test boards on a folding table in my kitchen. When the patent was approved, we framed it and hung it in the hallway. I didn't even think to put my name first. It wasn't about credit. It was about getting to the next step. When the company grew, they needed someone to lead R&D. No formal announcement, no handshake deal. Just a, we trust you to figure it out. So I did. I hired engineers who were smarter than me, designers who could translate crazy sketches into functioning hardware. I fought for budgets. I fought for deadlines. I fought for people. I was there when my first daughter was born, rushing from the hospital back to a launch meeting with an ID band still on my wrist. I was there when my father passed, flying back the same night to prep for a client demo because we couldn't afford to lose the deal. I was there during the crash of 2008, when half the company was laid off, and the rest of us had to choose between getting paid late or not getting paid at all. I stayed. Others left for safer jobs, for bigger salaries, for companies with gleaming campuses and nap pods. I stayed. Even when promotions passed me by. Even when the new hires made more than I did. Even when the promises started to sound more like excuses. Because loyalty, once given, is hard to retract. And because part of me still believed, stubbornly, stupidly, that the people at the top remembered who built the foundation they were standing on. I didn't realize until much later that loyalty in business is a one-way street. You give it until you're empty. Then they replace you with the next model. But back then, none of that mattered. I still believed in the work. I still believed in them. And maybe that was my first mistake. He showed up one Monday morning, fresh haircut, sharp suit, sneakers so white they practically glowed under the fluorescent lights. 34 years old, Stanford MBA, buzzwords pouring out of him like an over-caffeinated podcast. He shook hands fast, laughed loud, talked about blowing up legacy systems and future-proofing our workflows. Disruption was his favorite word. Everything had to be disrupted. Nothing sacred, nothing safe. We gathered in the conference room that first week. The old guard, the engineers, the ones who had built the damn thing from scratch, and listened while he pitched us on his vision. AI integration, machine learning, automation at scale. Productivity per head would double in 2 years, he promised, once we trimmed the redundant fat. His words, not mine. At first, I didn't hate it. Change isn't the enemy. Stagnation is. I'd spent my career adapting, evolving. But something about his urgency felt reckless. Like he didn't understand the foundation he was trying to bulldoze. Like he didn't care to. When he mentioned ChatGPT and automation, he said it like a magic trick. Like all our problems could be solved if we just fed enough prompts into a system and hit enter. I raised my hand, asked about the integration plan, how we'd safeguard quality, how we'd balance speed with user trust. We don't just need tools, I said. We need trust. He smiled like he was indulging a confused uncle at Thanksgiving dinner. Old models slow us down, he said. We have to move at the speed of the future. The room got quiet. After that, I started noticing the shift. Meetings I used to be included in started happening without me. Memos got sent out about embracing change and being open to new structures. HR rolled out training modules about agility mindset and legacy thinking barriers. Legacy. That's what they called us now, the ones who had built the house. We weren't mentors anymore. We were obstacles, dead weight, anchors slowing the ship. I still did my job, still pulled late nights when needed, still fought for my team, even as half of them were quietly laid off or reassigned. But every time I raised a hand, every time I asked a question about how we were vetting the new systems, the looks around the table got tighter, cooler. I wasn't against change. I was against reckless change. But in a world obsessed with moving fast, asking for caution sounds like asking for permission to drown. And once they decide you're part of the past, it doesn't matter what you built. You're already gone. I worked on the proposal for 6 weeks. Nights, weekends, hunched over the dining room table while my kids did homework across from me. I wasn't trying to fight the new direction. I was trying to make it better, safer, smarter. The plan was simple. A hybrid model where AI tools handled the heavy lifting, data parsing, basic draft generation, but critical decisions stayed human. Quality control, ethical reviews, user experience touchpoints. The parts of the work you couldn't automate without losing something vital. I ran simulations, pulled case studies, built a working prototype that used one of our smaller projects as proof of concept. It improved turnaround time by 28% without sacrificing quality. It was good work, solid, rooted in reality, not buzzwords. When my slot came up in the quarterly leadership meeting, I walked in with a stack of handouts, a live demo queued up, and more hope than I should have allowed myself. I kept the pitch tight. 10 minutes. Straight facts. Here's where we are. Here's where we can go. Here's how we get there without burning the entire structure down. The CEO nodded through most of it, smiled at the right times, asked a few surface questions, then leaned back in his chair and said, "Appreciate the thoughtfulness, Daniel. We'll take it under advisement." Under advisement, which is corporate for thanks, but no thanks. I gathered my laptop, nodded to the room, and left without another word. 2 weeks later, during the monthly all-hands, they announced a new initiative. Project Vanguard, they called it. An AI-human hybrid workflow. Presented by a junior project manager named Evan, 6 months out of grad school, who I had mentored when he first joined. He clicked through slides that looked suspiciously like the ones I had made, quoted statistics I'd pulled, showed off the prototype I'd built, just tweaked enough to look new. The room clapped. The CEO clapped. Evan smiled like he'd discovered fire. I stood in the back, next to the coffee station, pretending not to notice. Pretending it didn't matter. Pretending I hadn't stayed up until 2 a.m. on nights my kids begged me to read them another chapter of their book instead. I didn't say anything. Didn't send a bitter email. Didn't call Evan out. That's not how the game is played. If they were already writing you out of the story, yelling just made you look desperate. So I stayed quiet. But inside, something shifted. Not anger. Not yet. Just the cold understanding that whatever loyalty I still believed in, it wasn't mutual anymore. The first email hit HR. Realignment of organizational priorities. That's what they called it. A handful of recruiters, 2 benefits managers, and the payroll team. Gone by end of day. No farewell lunches, no thank you cards. Just security escorts and deactivated badges. A week later, it was design. Whole teams cut loose under the banner of efficiency optimization. Automation would handle initial mock-ups now. Wireframes by AI. User flows decided by algorithms. Faster, cheaper, scalable. That was the mantra. I sat through the meetings, heard the same justifications repeated like gospel. The data shows improved output. Customer satisfaction remains stable. This is the evolution of modern business. I raised my hand during a board review. Suggested maybe we were moving too fast. That trust, once broken with users, couldn't be easily repaired by a new software patch. That cutting the people who understood the soul of our products might save money short-term, but it would cost us long-term. The CEO smiled like I was a well-meaning child who just didn't get it. "Let the data speak," he said. 2 days later, I got the spreadsheet. The one with my team's names highlighted in red. 27 people down to 12. Some of them had followed me through 3 different offices, 3 different states. Some had uprooted their families for jobs we promised would be the future. I was told to oversee the transition, train the AI systems to replicate what my team had done by instinct, by sweat, by heart, document processes, build knowledge bases, smile through it. "Help us land the plane," the VP said, like we were in this together. So I did it. Sat in empty conference rooms, recording tutorial videos for the system that would replace us. Answered questions from new hires half my age, eager to streamline the workflows we had spent years perfecting. Watched the light go out of my team's eyes one by one as they packed up their desks, cleared their Slack accounts, handed over their badges. The final meeting was short. No ceremony. No review of my 2 decades of contributions. Just a polite invitation to sign a severance package and agree to a non-disparagement clause. Benefits through the end of the month. A LinkedIn endorsement from HR if I wanted it. I signed. Shook the VP's hand. Walked out carrying a single box. A few framed patents, a coffee mug my daughter had made me in 3rd grade, and an old photo of my team at our first product launch. The sky was gray that day. Not raining, just heavy. I sat in my car for a long time after that, watching people come and go, their lives still moving forward, while mine was folding quietly into itself. They had replaced us with code, and now I was free. Not free like a man escaping prison. Free like a man walking away from a house that had already burned to the ground. There was no party, no cake with my name spelled wrong, no awkward handshakes from people who barely knew what I actually did. Just a signed NDA, a digital goodbye post written by someone in HR who probably copied it from the last layoff. Daniel contributed greatly to our innovation journey, and we wish him well in his future endeavors. Future endeavors. Like I was some kid graduating from high school instead of a man being erased after 20 years of building the thing they were now selling off, piece by piece. I deleted the LinkedIn notification without opening it, put my phone on silent, sat at the kitchen table until the sunlight turned orange and thin, stretching long shadows across the tile floor. At some point, I wandered out to the garage. Not sure why. Just needed to move. To do something that didn't require permission or performance reviews. The garage smelled like sawdust and oil and old cardboard. The shelves were stacked with projects I'd never finished. A half-built workbench, a broken drone, a model engine I'd meant to repair 2 summers ago. Against the back wall, still dusty from our last move, were 3 old engineering notebooks. I pulled them down, brushed off the covers. They were filled with sketches, equations, ideas that never made it into any official product. Solutions nobody had asked for. Innovations nobody had wanted. Pages of problems solved by a man who had been told, finally, that he was the problem. I sat on the concrete floor and flipped through them, not really reading, just letting the familiar shapes of the work settle around me. An hour must have passed, maybe 2. I didn't hear my daughter come in, just felt her presence, small and uncertain, hovering in the doorway. "You okay, Dad?" she asked. Her voice was careful, the way kids speak when they know something important is broken but don't know how to fix it. I looked up at her, smiled the best I could, nodded. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." She nodded back, like that answer made sense, like being tired explained why her dad was sitting alone in a dark garage surrounded by old notebooks and broken machines. She came over, sat down next to me without saying anything, her shoulder against mine. We stayed there for a while, not talking, and for the first time all day, I didn't feel like something was ending. I felt like something was waiting. The first week after I left, the world stayed silent. No early morning calendar pings, no Slack messages piling up, no last-minute, "Can you jump on a call?" demands sliding into my inbox. Just long stretches of quiet mornings, coffee going cold on the table, the dog snoring at my feet. I let it happen. Didn't check my phone. Didn't check the news. Just existed, one slow hour at a time. Then the emails started. At first, they trickled in. Old clients reaching out just to check in. Casual, but with an edge I recognized. "Heard you moved on," they said. "Are you free for consulting?" They said. "We might have a project you'd be perfect for." Then came the partners, the ones who had always skipped the executives and asked to talk to me directly when the deadlines were tight and the stakes were real. They had heard the rumors. They wanted to know if I was ready to get back into the game. No suits, no decks, no politics, just results. I even got a message from a recruiter at a competing firm, one of the places we used to joke about in meetings, back when we still joked about competitors instead of fearing them. "We heard you were the one who actually built the platform that saved Q4, she wrote. "Would love to talk when you're ready." I read them all, stared at them until the words blurred together, then closed my laptop without answering. I wasn't ready. It wasn't pride. It wasn't bitterness. It was something deeper, something harder to name. I needed the silence. I needed to sit with the wreckage a little longer, to understand what had broken and what had survived. My wife asked one night, gently, if I was going to respond. I told her I would. Soon. Maybe. I wasn't sure if it was a lie, I just knew that rushing back into the same race with the same blinders, chasing the same empty metrics, would only build another house that someone else could burn down. This time, if I built something, it would be different. It would be mine. I cleared a space in the basement, moved aside the boxes of holiday decorations, the old treadmill nobody used anymore, the crate of baby clothes we couldn't quite bring ourselves to give away, set up a folding table, an old office chair with a cracked armrest, and a battered laptop that still booted up if you were patient. It wasn't much, but it was enough. I registered the company name one quiet afternoon. Signal North. The words pulled from an old project sketch I'd scribbled in the margins of a notebook years ago, back when everything still felt possible. No investors, no product managers, no half-baked quarterly goals scribbled on whiteboards by people who had never built anything real. Just a name, a blank page, and my hands. I dusted off my personal IP archive, designs and concepts I'd written late at night, not for the company, but for myself. Ideas I was told were too complicated, too expensive, not the right time. The kind of ideas you bury when you're busy surviving in a system that rewards the safe choice over the right one. I started prototyping, not to compete, not to prove anything, just to see if I could still make something that mattered. The first version was rough, ugly, unstable, stitched together with borrowed code and hope. But it worked. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something click back into place. I wasn't alone for long. 2 old colleagues reached out, Maria from Systems Architecture and Leo from User Experience. Both had left the company quietly over the past year. Both still had that same hungry look in their eyes, the one corporate jobs try to smother. We met at a diner off the highway, notebooks and laptops spread across greasy tables, drinking bad coffee and trading ideas like kids passing secret notes in class. There was no pitch deck, no business plan, just a simple agreement. We build it the right way, or we don't build it at all. Signal North wasn't designed to disrupt anything. It was designed to heal something we'd all lost, somewhere between the endless meetings, the spreadsheets, the layoffs, and the lies. We didn't talk about revenge. We didn't talk about proving anyone wrong. We just got to work. 6 months passed like a slow, steady drumbeat. No big launches, no glossy press releases, just quiet progress measured in late nights, messy whiteboards, and prototype after prototype until the pieces fit. The tool wasn't flashy. It didn't promise to replace people or streamline the workforce. It promised something simpler, something almost radical in its simplicity. A way to make AI work with human design, not over it. A system that used machine learning to handle the grunt work, while leaving intuition, creativity, and judgment exactly where they belonged, in human hands. We called it Polaris, a nod to the old ways of navigation. Not the destination, but the constant you could steer by when everything else was changing. At first, it was just us using it, testing it on small projects for friends and contacts willing to take a chance. Then word started spreading. 3 major product teams picked it up for beta testing. Quietly. Under the radar. No big corporate buy-in, just managers tired of watching their teams get replaced by systems that didn't understand the work. The feedback came in slow but steady. Faster development cycles, fewer quality issues. And the one line that mattered most to me: it feels like the tool understands us, not the other way around. For the first time in years, I didn't have to sit in a conference room and argue about value. The work spoke for itself. A startup fund reached out after the 3rd beta review went public, offered a tidy sum to accelerate growth and explore acquisition opportunities. It would have been easy to take it. God knows, after everything, the money would have been nice. But the second I read the offer, I knew. This wasn't what we were building. Signal North wasn't a product to be flipped for a payout and stripped for parts. It was something more permanent, something we were willing to protect, even if it meant going slower, even if it meant walking away from easy wins. I thanked them for their interest, told them we weren't looking for investors right now, closed the email, opened a fresh notebook, started sketching the next iteration. This time, nobody could shelf it. Nobody could bury it in committee meetings or steal the credit. This time we were building something that answered to no one but the people who actually used it, and it felt good. Not loud, not triumphant, just solid, real, like putting your hand on the hull of a ship you built yourself, knowing it would float, whether anyone else believed in it or not. The call came late on a Thursday. I didn't recognize the number at first. Just a 650 area code blinking on the screen while I was sanding down a prototype housing in the garage. I let it go to voicemail. Kept working, wiping sawdust from my hands, the hum of the sander filling the silence. Curiosity got the better of me around midnight. I played the message. It was him, the CEO. His voice was thinner now, less swagger, more strain. He didn't bother with small talk, just got straight to it. They were having unexpected operational challenges. The AI systems they'd implemented were producing inconsistent outputs. Major clients were growing frustrated with quality control issues. Product timelines were slipping. Reviews were tanking. He used a lot of words, but I heard the truth buried underneath all of it. The machine they replaced us with was breaking. And now the house was crumbling. He wanted a consultation. Just an informal conversation, he said, trying to sound casual. Maybe we could collaborate on a solution. Maybe there was a way to bring some of that old expertise back into the fold. Old expertise. The same expertise that had been labeled obsolete 6 months earlier. I sat there for a while, holding the phone, feeling nothing in particular. No anger, no satisfaction, no urge to gloat, just clarity. I didn't need to yell, didn't need to remind him of the years I gave, the warnings I voiced, the hands I held steady while the company stumbled forward pretending it was sprinting. He already knew. That's why he was calling. The next morning, I opened my email, started drafting a reply. Got as far as "thank you for reaching out" before I stopped. Closed the tab, deleted the draft, turned off my phone. I didn't need to be part of their salvage operation. Didn't need to save a system that had never cared about being saved. I had my own ship to sail now, and the wind was already at my back. It started with a blog post. One of the product managers from a beta team wrote about Polaris, about how it wasn't just another automation tool, but something different, something that respected the human side of the work. He called the post "The Human Behind the Algorithm." At first, it was just a few comments, a few shares, a few quiet emails from people in the industry who still remembered what real craftsmanship looked like. Then someone from a design conference reached out, asked if I would give a keynote, just a short talk. No stage lights, no velvet rope, just a room full of builders who still cared about the why behind the what. I said yes. I didn't prepare a big speech, didn't rehearse in front of a mirror. I just told the story, the way it actually happened. No polish, no corporate buzzwords, just the truth, that I didn't bounce back from anything. I wasn't a phoenix rising from ashes. I was a man who had spent 20 years building for someone else, lost everything, and started building again. Only this time, I built for myself. After the keynote, a small podcast invited me on, then another. No viral moments, no overnight fame. Just slow, steady recognition from people who knew the difference between noise and signal. Somewhere along the way, Signal North picked up a few more contracts. Word spread, not through press releases or ad buys, but through conversations. Real ones. The kind that happen when trust is earned, not bought. People asked me all the time how it felt to get revenge. I told them the truth. There was no revenge. There was just the work, and the work was enough. The garage doesn't smell like defeat anymore. It smells like cedar and solder and fresh coffee, like a place where things get made, not broken. I cleared out the last of the old junk, insulated the walls, strung up soft lights over the workbench. It's not a lab. It's not an office. It's something quieter, something real. I still make breakfast for my kids every morning, scrambled eggs, burnt toast, cereal when we're running late. I still read about AI too. I still stay curious, still watch how it changes, how it stumbles forward trying to become something bigger than itself. But now I read on my own terms. No quarterly deadlines hanging over me. No slide decks telling me what innovation is supposed to look like. No one demanding I move faster than my instincts tell me is wise. Some mornings I go for long walks through the city, just to remind myself that the world is still there, that it's still moving, that I'm still part of it. One morning, a few months after everything settled, I found myself near the old office. Same street, same bland building, same cracked sidewalk out front. Only now, the top floor, the one that used to buzz with late-night product meetings and half-eaten pizza boxes, was empty. Lights off, desks stripped bare, a for lease sign taped to the glass like a surrender flag. I stopped for a moment, hands in my pockets, watching the way the morning sun bounced off the vacant windows. And then I kept walking. Didn't take a photo, didn't send a message to anyone. Didn't feel anything sharp or bitter rise up inside me. Just a quiet, steady kind of peace. Some buildings aren't meant to be saved. Some chapters aren't meant to be reopened. I had my own foundation now, built from scar tissue and stubbornness and the kind of lessons you only learn when everything falls apart. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. But it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough.